begin tonight with shouty team coverage of Colorado's completely normal fall weather, which we will attempt to hype up until it's interesting. Gray and drizzly in the city. Drizzle, you know what that is? It's like rain, only sneakier. Snow in the mountains. Who would have thought? Look at Independence Pass. Now look closer. We go to Steve Stager, who's out in the elements.
This is perfectly normal fall weather in Colorado, Kyle. Back to you.
All right, well, if we can't pretend that the weather is important, what do you say we focus on who's going to run America? Perhaps that deserves some attention. And who says politics is boring, especially when strippers are involved? A hot congressional race just got hotter. Politics guy Brandon Ritteman has this zesty truth test.
What's Morgan Carroll thinking? Welfare for lap dances?
Well, if that one's not an attention-grabbing political ad, I just don't know what is. This one comes from national Republicans trying to help Mike Coffman hold on to his seat in Congress. And this line of attack comes from a vote by Democratic challenger Morgan Carroll in the state Senate last year.
Carroll voted to allow welfare recipients to use your tax dollars at ATMs at strip clubs and pot dispensaries.
This is true, but it also needs a little bit more context. You might hear this and think that Carroll voted to change the law to allow welfare cards to be used in pot shops and strip clubs. She didn't do that. What she did was vote against a bill to ban using those cards in those places. In other words, to keep state law as it was. That does put her on the side of the issue the ad says she's on, making this a fair claim. The ad tries to build a broader theme off of that vote.
Politicians waste lots of money. Morgan Carroll is one of the worst.
And this is where it becomes a stretch. It's a stretch to say that Carroll's vote against this law amounts to a waste of taxpayer money. The bill didn't save the state a dime, and it also did nothing to change the fact that welfare benefits can still be withdrawn from ATMs as cash, which means you can still go to an ATM at a gas station, pull out all your cash, and spend it on anything you want, even in a pot shop or a strip club across the street. That was a point that opponents like Carroll repeatedly made when this bill was up for debate. Supporters of the bill argued we shouldn't make it any more convenient for welfare recipients to use their money in those businesses. Bottom line, Carroll's vote on this bill is fair game. She had a chance to make it harder to pull out welfare money in pot shops and strip clubs, and she voted against that. But the ad tries to stretch that into a message about wasteful spending when the vote in question wouldn't have changed the amount of money being spent or the ways in which people could spend it. With your truth test, I'm Brandon Ritteman.
Like most stories, it's just not as much fun when you have to stick to what's true. Although the search history on Brandon Ritteman's work laptop now includes asking Google, how much does a lap dance cost? That presumably is not in the research that Brandon has compiled for this and all of his truth tests. You can see that in the truth test section at 9news.com. Our next question is one that we won't ask, according to Ken Heiss of Highlands Ranch. Bear with us now. This is a long question. Ken's pretty fired up. Hey 9 News, since you've jumped all over the Hillary Clinton bandwagon like a Patriots fan does with Tom Brady, why don't you ask the Clinton campaign this question? When Hurricane Matthew hit the East Coast, why were you only interested in extending the voting registration deadline in Florida when Matthew also hit North and South Carolina? I bet you won't ask her when she comes to Pueblo today. I bet you we won't either, Ken, because the premise of your question ignores the voting rules in North and South Carolina. South Carolina did extend its voter registration deadline because of the storm, and North Carolina allows same-day voter registration until the day before Election Day. So it's not an issue there. Sometimes outrage gets out in front of facts, but we're always happy to set the record straight. And for the record, go Broncos. A word now about last night's U.S. Senate debate on 9 News and the impact of protesters outside who slammed themselves against glass windows and doors at History Colorado. They succeeded. They succeeded in getting the candidates, the moderators, and the audience to loosen up and enjoy what is often a stressful hour. Audience members joked. One candidate told me that it took away his nerves in an instant. And Brandon and I knew that we were in for an interesting, if imperfect, night. The protesters also succeeded in ensuring that any media outlet will now think twice before doing a debate out in the public again, which is a shame because History Colorado provided a beautiful and unique venue. Did the protesters succeed in what ostensibly was their mission, to move their candidate past 2% in the polls, closer to our 10% threshold for inclusion in debates, closer to viability? Not sure. Voters, of course, will be the judge on that. If you missed the U.S. Senate debate, you can watch it in full on 9news.com. There are more debates on the way to help you make informed choices in November. A week from today, a debate on this year's ballot questions. And on October 20th, the 6th Congressional District. Democrats again try to take out Republican Congressman Mike Kaufman. He'll debate his challenger, Morgan Carroll. Both debates are at 7 p.m. on Channel 20.
Hurricane Matthew got us thinking about evacuations. More than 1 million people had to leave town along the coast as the storm moved in. It made us wonder about our city. Sure, a hurricane can't hit here, but what if there was some sort of disaster? Does Denver have a plan to evacuate? The short answer is kinda. City officials say there is a rather outdated plan, so they're writing a new one. It says so right here in this grant proposal. $125,000 for the creation of a plan completed by next year. Kind of scary until you really think about it. Denver isn't at risk for the kinds of natural disasters for which we tend to see evacuation, mainly hurricanes. But the reason for this new in-the-works plan is pretty interesting. Denver is planning for the worst surrounding the Cherry Creek Dam, more specifically what to do if the dam fails. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which built and maintains the dam, considers it high risk since it's so close to urban areas. Before I get to this, I should say Denver's emergency manager has been quoted saying he loses no sleep at night about the risk of the dam giving out, and it would take about twice the amount of rain of the 2013 floods to cause the dam to spill over. It's such a small risk, but if it were to give way, an estimated 300,000 people in the metro area would be at risk with floodwater stretching down the Platte River into Nebraska. And it would cause an estimated $19 billion worth of damage on the way. So Denver's working on an evacuation plan, with Adams and Arapahoe County too. We asked if that plan would be made public. The city said some would. Other parts of it would be kept private, though, you know, security concerns. The Army Corps of Engineers is working on making some changes to the dam to further prevent that disaster scenario. But again, the risk is very remote. Denver says that evacuation plan should be ready by the middle of next year, Kyle.
That's interesting stuff. All right, thank you, Steve. We have new information tonight on the emergency calls that come into Denver's 911 system. And you can look at this info in a couple of different ways. You can cherry pick some scary, relatively uncommon crime. Or you could note that short of car crashes, the #1 reason people call 911 in this city is to try and do good, to ask police to check on someone to see if they're okay. Welfare checks is what police call them and what we call them on the TV news when we're too lazy to rewrite press releases. Of the more than 531,000 calls last year, more than 25,000 of those were to check on someone. We were surprised by the relatively low number of calls for animal bites and attacks. We would have guessed hundreds. Only 51 such calls. But a whole lot of naked people, though. Last year, Denver officers were dispatched to 1,300 indecent exposure calls. Reached out to Denver police this afternoon for information on whether the calls for service were higher or lower than in years past, and we're still waiting to hear on that. All right, question of the day, is the A-line working? We check on it each day. Today, it's a no. But we cannot blame RTD. No one blame RTD. There was a semi that hit the crossing at Holly, and there have been delays throughout the day while they try and get that fixed. Diversity is not a buzzword. It's not a poster with smiling people of different races. Diversity is about people of various backgrounds, experiences, viewpoints, enriching life by just being together, striving together. If you walk the halls of South High in Denver, you will see diversity. You will hear diversity. Students from 70 countries, and they were celebrated today by Mayor Michael Hancock and Superintendent Tom Boasberg.
When we were born, all of us in this room, our potential was universal, but our opportunities are not.
Equity and tolerance, like most schools, it's something that you kind of need to work with the kids to help inspire them to be more tolerant and respectful of diversity. Here it's just the opposite.
Equity is the reason I'm at South. We are the epitome of what a public school can and should be, because you represent every type of background, student, language, culture, race, ethnicity that our world has to offer.
It's very important for everyone to know that their voice matters. It is about us, and if they don't know our opinions, how are they going to change anything?
When we work together, it's not just a win for ourselves, but the whole community.
Let's get inspired by people who refuse to quit. The quarterback who throws like a girl, and it's awesome. the guy who became a better hunter when his body began to fail him. And we watched and waited to see if Colorado's own Sarah Thomas could complete a world record swim over 3 days. She did. And we won't make you wait for her big news. She's thinking about a new record.
You know, I was in the middle of the swim and I was like, I'm never swimming. I'm done, I'm over it. But now that we've been home a couple of days, it's like, you know what? I came out of that water strong. Maybe I could push myself further.
Our conversation next.
There's the scary weather music. Yes, my friends, the struggle is real. Temperatures in the 40s today, finally feeling a little bit more like fall out there. Surprisingly, though, we were about 20 degrees cooler than where we should be for this time of the year. Hanging out in the mid-40s across the I-25 corridor throughout the entire day. We cannot get rid of the clouds out there. And up in the high country, temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Right now, you can see on HD Doppler 9 that the clouds, they have been just shifting in across eastern Colorado all afternoon long. I think they stick with us throughout this evening. Overnight lows dipping into the low 40s, so pretty much right where we are right now. And we might even wake up to a few spots with a bit of patchy fog. That cold front is already through the state. High pressure moving in back behind it, and that means once again those numbers start to skyrocket as we go toward tomorrow. In fact, we're going to be watching above average temperatures, feeling more like summertime in the mid 70s. We'll go with partly cloudy skies by the afternoon. It looks fantastic. 80s lining up. Your Friday looking mighty fine, and the weekend, yep, that summer heat is back with plenty of sunshine.
81.8 miles without stopping, 60 hours without sleeping, only swimming. The numbers are easy to say and hard to imagine. Hard to imagine the true difficulty of what Conifer's Sarah Thomas accomplished. She's now the unofficial world record holder for the longest known unassisted solo swim. We followed her swim down Lake Powell last week, starting 8 a.m. Tuesday, finishing 4 p.m. Thursday. She had only a swimsuit, earplugs, and goggles. To get the record, she had to do the swim without help. She couldn't touch her team's boat. They couldn't touch her. It was just Sarah Thomas against the odds. She won, and she kept her promise to come back and see us on Next.
Hey, Emmanuel Sanders, you want to catch a pass from me, Jessica Bell, a real quarterback? Check me out on Next. Look at the flick of the wrist. No.
Here now is our conversation with Colorado's marathon swimmer, Sarah Thomas of Conifer. Did you know how many people in Colorado were following you along the way on Next and elsewhere?
Not really. Somewhere during that first night, my crew said, hey, Sarah, Kyle Clark found out about you, and they did a blurb on the news. And I said, holy cow, that's crazy.
You relied on encouragement along the way, just to push you.
Yes.
Because there were times where you thought you were going to quit.
Yes.
What was the worst?
The worst was probably around hour 30. It was in the middle of the day, and I had just been getting pummeled by the wind all day. And it was just coming right in my face. It was making it hard to breathe. I don't even want to think about how much water I was swallowing. And it made it hard to eat and just to see, and I knew it was making me go slower. And it was awful. And I just started thinking, there's no way I can do another night. There's no way, I can't do it. And I did. I took my goggles off and I was crying, and my husband came out in the kayak and he was like, you're fine, you can do it. And then they came out and they read me words of encouragement that people had written on Facebook. And it just gave me that little extra to say, okay, take a deep breath, you can do it. You trained for this, it's fine, you can do it.
I'm fascinated. What do you do with your mind for that long?
That's the hard part. That's where I really kind of messed myself up on this swim, is that I was thinking so far in advance, and all that does is psych yourself out. So, you know, normally, I mean, sometimes you sing songs, sometimes you daydream about what you're going to do or what you're going to eat or make up stories. I make up stories all the time. People think I'm nuts. But you just have to think of things to distract yourself, and you go 30 minutes to 30 minutes, and if you're in the right zone, that goes by really quickly.
An astonishing accomplishment, Sarah Thomas Conifer. It was very cool to meet you and have you in, and if you're going to do another swim, we'll be all over it, I promise.
I'll let you know.
Awesome. So great to meet you. Thanks for coming in. A taxidermist in Grand Junction is also a pro at being a friend. Daryl Powell's known his buddy Matt Teasdale for about 40 years. They go deer hunting each year, and the plans did not change when Matt was diagnosed with ALS about 3 years ago. They hooked him up with an all-terrain wheelchair and a shooting contraption so that Daryl can still take Matt hunting. Matt had never bagged a deer until after his diagnosis. He's harvested one each year since 2014.
Just thought, no way he's going to get a deer this year. Well, sure enough, a couple nights later, not only did he shoot the deer perfectly behind his shoulder, but we had another muzzleloader loaded up ready for him, and he took a second shot just to make sure he had, was going to get that deer and it not get away. And both shots were excellent kill shots. The dude won't give up. He won't quit, and that's exactly how he is now.
Daryl says Matt's already planning a possible trip for next year. All right, let's tick through the attributes of a great football player. Grit, toughness, dedication. That's what makes those guys great, you know? Actually, pardon me. That's what makes those players great.
Here's the 10, here's the 10.
The Parker football Hawks are all about pushing limits.
There's a lot to be said about being a unit.
Coach Jeff Billy's team
is
built on a strong roster of 10 and 11-year-olds.
22 players.
But only one.
Just one.
Is different from all the rest.
I'm showing like that girls can too and not just boys, because they can. It's a free country.
Jessica Bell's teammates were a little surprised when they saw her take the field.
I thought she was just a sister of one of the guys.
It didn't take long for them to appreciate Jess's ability at quarterback.
Even though she's a girl, you don't judge a book by its cover. She can tackle, she can throw, she can catch, she can run.
It makes me feel good about myself that I'm not like being taken easy because I'm a girl.
In fact, Jess still remembers the first time she got tackled.
Actually, it felt pretty good.
It helped her get ready.
1, 2, 3, Hawks!
For game day.
Okay, going for CJ. You got it, Colorado Slam.
The gridiron is no place for special treatment.
Actually, they play me like I'm another boy. They don't say, oh, we can't hurt her because she's a girl or stuff like that. And they don't try and go hard on me and hurt me or think they can just be better than me because I'm a girl.
Jess's determination on the field
Great, Jess!
Earns her respect from her opponents.
Good game, good game.
From her teammates.
Mean Machine on 3! 1, 2, 3, Mean Machine!
And her parents, too.
I hope more and more girls are going to play now because of her.
I can play with the boys in an organized sport.
An 11-year-old girl.
Hey, good job.
Pushing the limits of what's possible.
That you can do whatever you want, there's no limits.
With photojournalist Mike Grady, Adela Rakawa for Next.
Jessica tells us she's looking forward to continuing her football career, especially having a bit more protection in the pocket as her offensive line grows bigger as well. One of our favorite Next viewers joins us live in the studio. Lex is here. Next. We're back for feedback now with my buddy Lex. Alan Kastner says, are you gaining girth? What do you think? Am I gaining girth? And Cammie says, sports jackets look horrible with your belly hanging out. Lex, do you think I have a belly?
Yeah.
That was definitely a solid yes. All right, Lex, dance us out, buddy. They're going to play the music. Let's dance us out. Who's right there on the screen? Is that Lex?
Yeah.
Is it Lex's birthday?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, bud. Yeah, happy birthday. See you next time.